Let's talk about the furry comic Trapfinders. With over 400 pages to its name, it is a Dungeons and Dragons themed comic with plenty of comedy and anachronisms to back up its questing. We start out with main characters Hiroko the fox and Kasuki the raccoon. They are a tiny people called Critterkin, or wildlings, depending on who you ask, and they want to start their own adventuring guild. Reporting to the city of Cyril, the city of guilds, they realize they're going to need a lot of money in order to register themselves, and in order to do that, they gotta go adventuring. But even with what little money they do have, no one will sell them any adventuring gear because number one, they are too small, and number two, racism. I mean, I get it. I wouldn't sell a magic sword to a child-coded fox girl either. She's only slightly bigger than this beer stein on the counter here. That would make her somewhere in the realm of 1 foot tall, I think. She is tiny. And Kasuki gets all of his ideas about knights and chivalry from comic books, so yeah, they're basically both children. So they need a way to make lots of money and register their guild without much in the way of gear, experience, magic, physical strength, worldly knowledge, and so on and so forth. They have no idea what they're doing, and Hiroko's naive positivity is probably going to get them both killed or worse. And in a world of shadow creatures, vampires, exotic magic, and more, it's probably going to be worse than death. Right away, the art style is really telling me that this person enjoyed the 1990s anime boom. I can see some Inuyasha in there, some Sonic Sat AM in there, and plenty of exaggerated posing and expressions. The earliest date I can find for this comic is April of 2011, but I'm willing to bet that the author grew up with some of this other stuff. I'm not in love with the 2 heads tall chibi art style that only seems to apply to our 2 heroes and no one else, but a good story can make up for shoddy artwork, right? Here's hoping. Hiroko's father told her long ago about a very powerful magic item called the Wizard's Pearl, or the Mage's Orb, or the Mage's Pearl, depending on what page of the comic you're on. I think that's just the author not paying very close attention. You need to go back and fix that. What is it? What does it do? Well, you see, it's very magical, and it floats. Yeah, it floats, and it's very magical. But that's what it is. They're going after it, and they have no idea what it is, what it looks like, or what it does. But Hiroko figures if they can get their paws on that artifact, they can sell it for enough gold to start their own guild in Cyril. And thusly begins the absolutely batshit insane Dungeons and Dragons campaign that is Trapfinders. We've got robot dinosaurs, vampire weddings, dungeon crawling, secret organizations, and more. Every magic item found has its own story. Every time Hiroko tries to flirt with Kasuki, he turns her down because, chivalry. And every gold piece is gonna count if they want to pay the registration fee and be the first wildling/Critterkin guild in the city of Cyril. I was first told about Trapfinders a long time ago, and I added it to my reviewing list and forgot about it because the artwork is, well, it's not very inspiring. I honestly don't know if this was like a 13-year-old with a crappy tablet in the beginning, or if someone was self-taught and got too comfortable with their own art style to ever improve on it, but the art direction was not this comic's strong suit, not for a long time. Most of the comics I've reviewed have a Growing Pains era, learning how to draw the same characters over and over, deciding a color scheme for the environment, and figuring out your lore, etc., etc. But Trapfinders was black and white and rough around the edges and frankly varies wildly from page to page. It does transition to color eventually using a color spray spell, which was freaking genius, and if you're into D&D, you know that spell. But then it came with a whole set of other problems, like inconsistent colors, shading or lack thereof, and making sense out of lighting that isn't there. I know this is somebody's baby, and they slaved over it for thousands of hours, but this was pretty rough for a 400-page comic with little in the ways of improvement for the first 300 pages. The flat colors and strangely proportioned characters do not do the comic any favors. But, all that criticism being said, all hope is not lost. For you see, at some point in the story, there is a 2-year time gap. Without any spoilers, a bunch of characters go their separate ways, and we are ripe for jumping forward in time before getting them back together again. We finish chapter 4 of the comic at around the 300-page mark, and when we start chapter 5, there is a massive leap forward in artistic quality. Now we're getting somewhere. All right, Trapfinders. Honestly, I would call chapters 1 through 4 old Trapfinders, and from chapter 5 forward, modern Trapfinders, from the difference in the art alone. I've seen the artist advertising himself on Reddit using his latest and greatest pages. People are gonna be really confused when they see this, and then arrive at the Trapfinders website and find this. Oh, you know, you could have, like, Trapfinders, the call to adventure, and put all the old stuff over here, and then have Trapfinders 2, the thirst for adventure, and have, like, chapter 5 forward with all the shiny new pages over there. I think that might work just from an advertising perspective, but what do I know about growing a brand? Anyway, I feel like Trapfinders is on the cusp of making it to the big leagues as far as webcomics goes. Like, they're right there. They've put in the work. They've graduated from art school. They've got the passion and the willpower enough to make a comic. They're 400 pages in. Their old stuff is pretty shabby, like everybody else, but their new stuff builds on it so well it just inspires the reader to keep going forward. I want Trapfinders to succeed and continue on well into the future. It needs to do some house cleaning so it's more approachable and easier to digest on the whole. I don't know if that makes any sense. Hiroko and Kasuki have many adventures together, and they are just as bonkers as any Saturday morning cartoon, D&D game with your buddies, and the like. The artwork is rough, but this comic has a heart of gold, and now that the artist's talent has finally caught up to their storytelling intentions, I cannot wait to see where this one goes. So, should you read Trapfinders? I'd say yeah. Be patient with this one. It is pretty shabby art-wise early on, but the story is excellent, and the most recent pages are a monster step up in quality and storytelling. I say, check it out. Oh, and author, if you're listening, please number your fucking pages. It took me forever to find my spot. Okay, bye.